Ladies and gentlemen, capital G here, and I knew I was going to be taking a 2 week break. Maybe I didn't expect it to be like a 6-7 week break, but life happens. Started a new job working full time, and if I'm not at work, I'm home with baby. So yeah, daughter just turned 1, and she's more of a handful at 1 than she is at even 6 months, as it turns out. So family's been keeping me busy, work's been keeping me busy, and now I finally got the chance to talk about some Strixhaven and Commander 2021 stuff. So with that in mind, my third consecutive red and white deck, although this is more a Lorehold deck than a Boros deck, it's Alibu, Ancient Witness. 5 mana for this 4/5 legendary artifact, Golem. Other artifact creatures we control have haste, cool ability, and whenever one or more artifact creatures we control attack, Alibu deals X damage to any target, and we scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts we control. So, Boros has seen a lot of innovation in this particular set, and I have to admit, this deck will not do those innovations that much justice, but hey, this looks like a fun commander option to me, so let's see what we can do with it. So obviously we want to be able to have artifacts tap, so lots and lots of artifact mana rocks. So Arcane Signet I would think is a must because we want to have tapped artifacts. Same with the Boros Signet, even if it's a little off theme. Cultivator's Caravan. Since a lot of our creatures are also artifacts, we can actually use the crew ability to tap pretty much as many artifact creatures as we want, and then we can swing with the caravan or swing with a random Thopter or something. But this is a good way for us to tap a lot of our artifact creatures without necessarily sending them into combat. The Cursed Mirror. This is a cool new toy. Red and 2 for this artifact that taps for a red, and when it enters the battlefield, it may become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. Pretty cool. Everflowing Chalice. Even if you cast this for 0 and tap it for no mana, it's still a tapped artifact that Alibu counts with its ability. Not entirely sure if a golem has a gender. Let's not go there though. That's a debate for another time. Running the Fire Diamond, taps for a red, why not? Icy Manipulator. We don't see Icy too much in our format, if at all. But hey, my logic on this one is that we can tap our own artifacts that don't normally tap. You'll see examples of that shortly. Or we could tap down an opponent's blocker, or even tap down an opponent's Maze of Ith. Tap down a key land when they would probably need it. I always like doing like micro things to disrupt my opponents, so Icy Manipulator can do that for us. Key to the City. If we're sending our artifact creatures into combat, we would like them to come home. Key to the City helps with that. Manifold Key also can do this. It allows us to untap another artifact, or we can have target creature be made unblockable this turn. Marble Diamond, taps for white. Running Mind Stone, tap it for the card. We can tap it for the generic mana, or we can sack it for a card. Looter Scooter is here. Same reason as the Cultivator's Caravan. The fact that this also gives us a little bit of card advantage is also pretty sweet. Soul Ring, of course. Strionic Resonator. Alibu's ability is a triggered ability, so let's copy it. And, hit 2 players, 2 targets, 2 whatever we need. Talisman of Conviction, of course, mana rock. Temple Bell. Yes, little group huggy. Tap it, each player draws a card. It taps itself for no mana cost, which is my logic in running this. Cheap to put out. And, of course, we can deal some damage with it. Throne of the God Pharaoh. It's not just our regular artifacts that we'll be tapping. These guys, too. We'll be tapping artifact creatures. So, at the beginning of our end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures we control. really bring down some life totals. Trading Post, 1 mana, tap it for whatever we need. And of course, Weatherlight. This particular vehicle will give us a bunch of card advantage because this will more likely swing in, deal some combat damage, and let us look at our top 5 and pull a historic card, namely an artifact, from those top 5 cards and put it into our hand. 25 creatures, including C21 All-Star Bronze Guardian. This thing is a powerhouse. I don't have the precons. I have played against someone in a low power game that was running the Lorehold precon, and this thing is nasty. Star 5 double strike, star being the number of artifacts you control. Other artifacts you control have ward 2. It has ward 2, which means that if you target it with a spell or ability, if they don't pay the additional 2, that spell or ability is countered. So really cool new ability. Apparently it's going to be an evergreen ability, likely phasing out hexproof. So I think this is actually really cool, and it's a house. Combustible Gearhulk can potentially give us some card advantage, or could potentially deal some damage. Being an on-curve 6/6 for 6 with first strike is also good. Crashing Drawbridge, we can tap this to have creatures we control gain haste until end of turn. It seems redundant with Alibu, but the way I look at it, this can give us some early blocks, can give us some mid-game blocks, and it taps itself for free. So I think it's useful here, even if the haste ability seems redundant on paper. Dig Site Engineer, not an artifact creature, but can help us make a bunch of them. Whenever we cast an artifact spell, we can pay an additional 2 mana to create a construct artifact token with that's +1/+1 for each artifact we control. Starts off as a base 0/0. The construct is an artifact creature in and of itself, so at the very worst, we're paying an additional 2 mana to have a bear. At the very worst, and at its best, it's going to be 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, 9/9, and perhaps larger. Filigree Familiar, when it enters the battlefield, gain 2 life. When it dies, we draw a card. Just a cute little construct, why not? Goblin Welder, not an artifact creature, but lets us swap artifacts we don't need for artifacts that we would like to have onto the battlefield. Mana Dork, running the Gold Mirror, tapping for a white. Hope of Garifur, just a 1/1 flying artifact creature for 1 mana. That's a shoo-in. So as long as we have an opponent that can't block a flyer, this is the one that we're going to be attacking with. Iron Mirror, of course, taps for the red. Lodestone Mirror gives us a place to tap any number of untapped artifacts we control to give it +1/+1 until end of turn, and it has trample. So this can be a big going at somebody's life total. Lorehold, Clockwork Scholar, again not an artifact creature, but the synergies are there. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking artifact creatures we control. And whenever one or more artifact creatures enter the battlefield under our control, we get to draw a card, but only once per each turn. Loyal Apprentice, this is a good way to trigger Lorehold. At the beginning of combat on our turn, if we control our commander, we get a Thopter with flying, and it gains haste till end of turn. So this can generate more flying things that we can tap. Metallurgian. Going back to Alara originally for this one. White and 1 for a 1/2 that can pay a white tap to regenerate target artifact. A reminder on how regeneration works if you're a bit newer to the game. If a creature would be destroyed, it is instead tapped, and any damage that is on that permanent is removed. So that'll happen once per time the thing regenerates, and it only lasts until end of turn. So you can actually regenerate something that isn't necessarily about to die just to have this tapped. The Mere Battlesphere, of course, comes with the precon. Actually, this thing's been printed so many times that it's dirt cheap to get and super effective every time it hits the battlefield. Comes down, gives us 4 colorless mirror tokens. And whenever the Battlesphere attacks, we can tap any number of untapped mirror we control. That includes our mana dorks that we've seen earlier. to give the Battlesphere plus X plus O until end of turn and deal X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So, super cool in combat if you get this going, and especially with Alibu, it'll have haste. This is likely coming down with haste. Mirror Retriever. When this dies, get another artifact card from our graveyard back to your hand. The Plague Mirror. This one taps very generic, but it's also a 1/1 Infect for 2. The Infect is not super relevant. We're just using him mainly as a mana dork. Quicksmith Genius. More and more people have been seeing the potential of this card. I've been running it in the ready for years, and it is a house. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may discard a card to draw a card. And we're running some cards that could put 2, 3, 4 artifacts down in the same turn, so you can really loot through your deck and find what you need. Rebek. She's still pretty cheap. I don't think a lot of people are really playing her yet, but artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost amongst artifacts we control. Yeah, we have quite the wide range of artifact casting costs, from anywhere from 0 to 7. So, the more artifacts we have in play, the more protected our artifacts are once Rebek is down. Restoration Specialist. 2 mana for this 2/1 Dwarf Artificer. You can pay a white and sacrifice this to return up to 1 target artifact and up to 1 target enchantment from our graveyard to our hand. That's Shimmermere. Cast artifacts spells as though they had flash. Pretty straightforward. Sad Robot, of course, ramps us, gives us a potential card draw. A long time staple in our format. The Steel Overseer. Tap it to put a 1/1 counter on each artifact creature we control. So our army can get quite large, and it also taps itself for free, which is a great synergy. Toralf, God of Fury. Not an artifact, although, I mean, we do have a hammer, so it could be an artifact. But we're not really running it for Toralf's hammer. Not that it's a bad card, we're running it for Toralf himself. Because 5/4 for trample, and whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, Toralf deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. So yes, that means if we attack, Alibu triggers when we have Toralf on the board, deal 6 damage to a Zulaport Cutthroat, and then throw that 5 damage elsewhere. If there's anything left, throw that elsewhere, so on and so forth. And actually, with the enchantments that we're running, we could actually go infinite with Alibu, Toralf, God of Fury, and a couple of our enchantments. Trusty Pack Beast, 2/3. It's not an artifact, but it does bring artifacts back from our graveyard to our hand for the low cost of 3 mana. Running the Workshop Assistant. When this dies, return another artifact card from our graveyard to our hand. So yeah, just realized I'm not running Junk Diver, but I don't really know what I would take out to run Junk Diver. But nonetheless, great synergy in this deck. For enchantments, we're running the Curse of Opulence as a way to kind of ramp ourselves up a little bit. Encourage people to attack not us, and so they can get their treasures. When I was talking about Toralf going infinite with Alibu and one of our enchantments, Fiery Emancipation and Furnace of Wrath are what I'm talking about. Because not only is it doubling the damage that is originally coming from Alibu, I'm not consistently pronouncing his name, as it turns out. Or her name, or its name. Nonetheless, when our golem deals the damage, if there's anything left over, Toralf can direct it elsewhere. And whenever Toralf directs the damage elsewhere, it's a new source of damage. Therefore, it's getting doubled or tripled again with these enchantments. So, yes, potential infinite combo here. Gear for Aether Grid. Of course, tapped any 2 untapped artifacts we control, deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Why not? Feels pretty good. These are the only 4 enchantments we're running, but these 2 are going to be doing a lot of work for us, especially if we manage to pair it with Toralf. 5 instants with the Borrow's Charm. Again, not flavorfully correct per se, but being able to pay 2 and give our board indestructible, super important. 4 damage to target player or planeswalker may be relevant. Target creature gains double strike. I did win a game the other day with that. So, the other two of the abilities may be relevant. That middle one, super relevant in protecting our board. Chaos Warp, of course. Take any bad thing, get it off the board. Maybe another bad thing comes on the board. Maybe a land comes into the board. Maybe nothing comes into the board. Who knows? A Generous Gift. We know exactly what we're getting. Destroy a permanent. And its controller gets an elephant token. And Tibalt's Trickery. Obviously, this busted standard for a little while until we changed the... not standard, but modern. It busted modern for a little bit until the Cascade rules were corrected. It's counterspell in red, and then you choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library till they hit a non-land. So, instead of casting their big, say, Expropriate, you counterspell, mill up to 3 cards, and they get something else. Wear and Tear, great removal. Wear destroys target artifact, Tear destroys target enchantment, and this has Fuse. So both sides of this card can be cast in one go. 36 lands, including the Alpine Meadow, are only presence of snow in the deck. It's there for the land types. Running the Ancient Den, which is a great synergy of these artifact lands. Battlefield Forge. Comes with a precon. These were great reprints, the enemy pain lands coming in the precons. So, good call on Wizards for that one. Definitely appreciate it. Running the Blink Moth Nexus. This is actually pretty cheap these days. You can actually pay mana to turn this into an artifact creature with flying. And, hey, we can tap it and it counts towards Alibu. So, Blink Moth Nexus is a good fit here. Blink Moth, well, same thing. 2 mana tap to tap a non-creature artifact. Or you can tap it for a generic, so comes in untapped, doesn't slow us down at all. Command Tower, because perfect colors. Darksteel Citadel, indestructible. It's an artifact land. Ijanjo Castle. If Alibu is the one who's gonna go into combat, we would like to try to defend him if we can, and so running the Kamigawa Castles helps do that. So all of a sudden, you know, our opponents may need a little bit more on the block to take him down if he's got it. Furycom Snarl. A lot of people were like, when they saw the cycle reprinted, but the fact of the matter is, these are good lands. We saw the allied versions in Shadows over Innistrad. We saw the allied versions of these lands, and this set finished the cycle by giving us the enemy versions where. When this card enters the battlefield, we may reveal a mountain or a plains card in our hand, and if we successfully do so, this comes in untapped. Honestly, letting our opponents know that we have another basic land in our hand is a very, very low cost to have this come to play untapped, if you ask me. Great Furnace rounds out our artifact land suite. The Inventor's Fair. If we control 3 or more artifacts, gain a life on our upkeep. Sweet. And of course the fact that we can pay for it, tap it, and sack the fair to search our library for an artifact and put it into our hand. Also pretty sweet. Activate only if we control 3 or more artifacts. We got lots, as you've seen. Lorehold Campus. I put it in here just to showcase the card. I'm not a fan of the campuses, personally. They come into the battlefield tapped. Yes, they can tap for enemy colors. And yes, they give us the ability to pay 4 mana and tap to scry 1. But honestly, that's essentially tapping down 5 mana producing permanents just to scry once. No. I feel that ability is way too expensive for what it is. And so I don't think these cards are actually very good. This is just here for flavor and for showcasing. Mishra's Factory. Taps for colorless. Again, you can pay mana to it and it becomes an artifact creature. So again, helps us count towards Alibu's ability. Running 9 basic mountains, running the Myriad Landscape to let us go get a couple of basics that share a land type. Needle Verge Pathways here, of course. Red on the front side, white on the back. Let's showcase that. Running 8 Plains, 1 Sacred Foundry. Has both our land types, why not? Shinka the Blood-Soaked Keep. This is our other Kamigawa land. In this case, we can pay a red and tap it to give our legendary creature, giving our commander first strike until end of turn. Yet another way to help protect our commander in combat. And these lands do not come into play tapped, so these Kamigawa lands have always been very good because there's no consequence to playing them. The opportunity cost is nothing. Spectator Seating, of course, if you've managed to pull some of these crowd lands. They're already going up in price, so the more of these you've pulled from your packs, the better off you are. Temple of Triumph. The temples keep getting reprinted. These are good. I don't mind having a land come into play tapped and scry once for free. So the temples are definitely way better than the campuses. 1 Planeswalker, of course, the Ready Scrap Savant. Just being able to repeat, even if you only the one time pay the 4 and sacrifice an artifact to return an artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield just once, you've already got your mana's worth. The fact that you can plus it to kind of rummage, discard any cards you don't need and draw better ones, always good. You're not going to get to the -10 here. This deck is not designed to get to that -10. If somehow you make it to the -10, you should have already won the game. Sorceries, running Resurrection, return target creature card from our graveyard to the battlefield, why not? Rip Apart, great piece of removal coming in from Strixhaven. It's sorcery speed, but you can deal 3 damage to a creature, or a planeswalker, or you can destroy an artifact or enchantment, so a huge swath of excellent targets exist in our format for this thing. Scrap Mastery. If somebody destroys a bunch of our artifacts, this is a good way to get them all back in one shot. Seize the Day. This is the only instance of additional combat steps that are found in my build, but if you put a focus on it, I can't blame you, because being able to swing with our commander multiple times seems really, really good. In this case, for the Seize the Day, for 4 mana at a sorcery speed, untap a creature. After this phase, there's an additional combat followed by an additional main phase. And you can flash it back for 3 mana. So the presence of this card gives us at least 2 additional attack steps. Slaughter the Strong. Our commander just happens to be a 4-power creature, so yeah, for 3 mana with our commander on the board, we can wipe the board and likely have the single most powerful creature on the board and then start swinging away. Sram's Expertise, 4 mana for this sorcery that gives us 3 colorless servo tokens. Cool. And we can also, in addition to that, we can cast a spell with converted mana cost 3 or less from our hand on the free. So 4 mana, get 3 servos, and play another card. Excellent. Tragic Arrogance, great board wipe. For each player, choose amongst those permanents that player controls an artifact, creature, enchantment, and a planeswalker. Sacrifice all other non-land permanents they control. So for each player, yourself included, and for each of your opponents, you get to choose what stays on the board. And of course, Trash for Treasure. Same reason as the Ready, just to, get rid of an artifact we don't need, get one that we want back. And Wake the Past, 7 mana for this sorcery, but it's definitely an excellent panic button, shall we say. Return all artifact cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn. You might arrive at a point where you just need all your artifacts back now. And I'm glad to have this in here for that reason. And on that, Alibu, Ancient Witness. That's the deck tech. That's sort of my build on that. Let me know what you all think about it. And so if you've got any cool ideas to go for her belt, definitely share them in the comments. I'm not sure when I'll be able to fire off another one of these, but hopefully soon. The next deck tech is already ready. It's just a matter of finding time to record. And let's just say next time out, I think I'm going to break an oath. We'll see you then. Bye for now.